Welcome to your October 2021 horoscope. My name is Cailin, and today I'm going to be covering the major transits for the month ahead using tropical astrology and the whole sign system. I strongly recommend that you watch your horoscope for your ascendant sign first and foremost, because it will be the most accurate for you overall. Having said that, if you have time to also watch your sun sign and moon sign horoscopes, please do so, because the sun sign horoscope will tell you more about your life goals and your career, whereas the moon sign horoscope will tell you more about your home life, your family life, and your current state of emotional health and well-being. Now, before I get into the horoscopes, I just want to kind of announce that it's been 12 months since I did my very first horoscope series, which I launched on the 1st of October 2020. So a lot has happened in that time. The channel has grown so much and I've connected with so many of you guys, and I just love hearing from you. I love reading your comments and interacting with you more personally. So if these horoscopes resonate for you, please drop me a comment, let me know what's going on in your life. And if you want to connect with me on Instagram and Facebook, I'll leave a link in the description box below, but it's basically just Castrology, which is the same handle as what I use for my YouTube channel. So wishing you guys a prosperous October 2021. And without further ado, let's dive into the horoscopes. Hi Virgo, Sun, Moon and Risings. Welcome to your October 2021 horoscope. On the 1st of October or the 30th of September, depending where you live in the world, Venus in Scorpio in your 3rd house will square Jupiter in Aquarius in your 6th house. This transit will essentially lead to you having more work than you feel like you can handle. So Jupiter expands whatever it touches, and because Jupiter is in your 3rd house, which represents communications, it represents education, dealing with other people, writing projects, and literally just messaging, communicating, being on the phone, and so on and so forth. There may just be so much of this that you feel like you just really can't get a handle on it. And it's not really fair for us Mercury-ruled individuals, because Mercury will be retrograde as well. So it will really be compounding on that energy, which is kind of annoying. But I just want to say that this transit serves to show you that you have way more potential than what you are giving yourself credit for. And I say that because Venus rules over your 2nd house, which represents your priorities and what your values are, and that includes how much you value yourself. Now, Venus also rules over your 9th house, which represents seeing the bigger picture and your vision for the future. Now, Jupiter, like I said, will always expand whatever it touches. When Jupiter is in a harmonious aspect to another planet, such as a trine or a sextile, this comes about in a way which is very easy to deal with, or which is welcome. But in this instance, with this square aspect, which is a hard aspect, essentially we are being given more than we feel that we can handle to prove that we can actually handle it all. I mean, you guys are Virgos, I'm a Virgo moon, we've got this. Now, the way that this transit can play out on a more practical level is that you may just be dealing with people on a one-to-one basis way more than what you wanted to. And I say that because Jupiter rules over your 7th house of one-on-one relationships. So this can see you giving people advice. This can see anyone who's in a consulting role having lots of client appointments or doing lots of business deals. That also goes for anyone who works in property or anyone who works in real estate, because Jupiter rules over your 4th house of property matters. Now, this uncomfortable transit will lead, or can lead, to an increase in your earning capacity or even in your finances as it is. And I say that because Venus rules over your 2nd house of finances and resources. Now, this transit can see you dealing with many individuals from a different cultural background to you, as shown by Venus ruling over your 9th house. So this could see you having a lot of international clients, and this will certainly be a big period in terms of growth in business for anyone who works in the import or export industry, for anyone who works in any kind of communications profession, and also anyone who works in commerce. So let's say service-based roles, sales, anyone who owns their own business. You get the picture. It's a busy time for Virgos, but especially for those individuals. Now, on the 6th of October, there will be a new moon in Libra in your second house. And this new moon, which is at 13 degrees, will actually be in exact conjunction with Mars, and it will be in a wide conjunction with your ruling planet Mercury, which will be retrograde at this time. So this new moon in your second house can see you welcoming an additional stream of income. Now, the second house represents or rules over finances and resources, as well as your valuables and your possessions. Because this new moon in Libra is making an exact conjunction with Mars, which rules over your third house and your eighth house, the way in which your finances may be increasing, or this additional stream of income could come about through launching a new business, whether that's online, or maybe you're just launching some new services or selling some new products, or perhaps you are starting some kind of new communications project. Maybe you're writing a book or a documentary. Maybe you're going to start your own YouTube channel, or maybe you have one, and now with this new moon in Libra, it is actually going to be monetized. So this new moon in Libra in your second house will see your earning capacity increasing due to your own personal efforts that you put in. And I say that because it will be conjunct your ruling planet Mercury. Now, this transit is making a difficult aspect to Uranus in Taurus, and this is actually an exact in conjunction. So inconjunctions occur when we see a 150-degree aspect between two planets. So essentially Libra and Taurus, they don't really understand each other. They're different in modality, they are different in Earth. Thankfully, they are both ruled by Venus, but the point that I'm trying to make here is that this in conjunction to Uranus in your ninth house, which represents you seeing the bigger picture and what you want your future to look like, it has a redirecting energy, or some kind of it throws out some kind of curveball from left field, and you're like, okay, I didn't know that I don't like making money in this way, or I didn't know that I'm not okay with my finances being this way. In any case, Uranus rules over your sixth house, which represents what you do for work, and it also represents your health. So maybe how you make money or how you want to make money is unsustainable in the long run in terms of the impact that it will have on your health. Perhaps while you've welcomed a new stream of income, by the same token, this has made you realize that you actually want to change up like the whole format of your daily working processes. Now, on a totally different level, this can see you just implementing some new kind of budgeting scheme or savings scheme. Now, lastly, with this new moon in Libra, maybe some of you guys are starting a new diet. And I say that because the second house rules over what we eat. So for many of you, you may be changing up what you eat, or you could even just be having some kind of like makeover. The second house rules over how we dress, it rules over our wardrobe, and it also rules over the second half or the lower half of our face. So some of you may even be getting some kind of dental procedure done. Now, in terms of when it's a good time to act on what this new moon is bringing forth in your life, I would do so around the 9th or the 10th of October, because that is when we will see the Sun, Mars, and Mercury all being conjunct at 16 degrees Libra. So that's a great day for you to start the new diet, It's a great day for you to launch the new service online or put the new product up for sale, and so on and so forth. Now, between the 6th and the 19th of October, we will see 4 planets stationing direct, and in order, those are Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter, and Mercury. Thank God. Now, with Pluto stationing direct on the 6th or the 7th of October, in Capricorn in your 5th house, this can see there being some kind of rebirth that has taken place with regard to your creative projects and your hobbies and your passions. So this could be anything that you love doing, whether that is dancing, performance, writing, even if it's astrology. In any case, the fact that Pluto has been retrograde in the 5th house for the last 5 months shows that your enjoyment of these things, or even your talent in these areas, has undergone some kind of rejuvenation process, and it is now ready for rebirth. So on a different level though, the 5th house rules over your romantic relationship, and it also represents children. So perhaps you've had a total change in perspective about whether you want to have kids or not, whether you want to expand your family or not, or maybe you've second guessed or reevaluated the romantic relationship that you are currently in. Maybe you haven't been dating anyone for a really long time and you're like, okay, now I'm ready to put myself out there again. Or on the flip side of that, maybe you've been dating different people on and off and you're like, hey, I'm going to go through a period of just not dating. Maybe you want to become a celibate. I don't know. Now, on the 11th of October, Saturn will station direct in your 6th house, and the 6th house rules over your health, and it rules over work, and it also rules over those, mundane tasks or duties that we have to carry out that pretty much everyone hates except for Virgos. So the fact that Saturn is direct in your 6th house indicates that you can have more stability and security when it comes to health matters. Maybe you've got some health matter under control now. On a different level though, with Saturn being direct in your 6th house of work, your work processes or projects that you're working on can now run more smoothly. Maybe your relationship with your boss or with your employee has improved. Maybe you've found some common ground where you can finally work out your differences because you have an understanding with this other individual. Now, on the 18th of October, Jupiter will station direct in your 6th house. Jupiter rules over your 4th house of family. So the fact that Jupiter is now direct, following off the back of Saturn going direct in your 6th house, this can indicate that there may be some kind of conflict resolution when it comes to any kind of disagreements or issues that you've been experiencing with your family members. Now, the 6th house also rules over loans that we receive. So maybe you have received pre-approval for getting a home loan as represented by Jupiter ruling over your 4th house of property. Now on the 18th/the 19th of October, Mercury will station direct in your 2nd house in the sign of Libra. Of course, Mercury is your ruling planet and it rules over your 10th house, which represents your career. So with Mercury having been retrograde in the 2nd house of finances and resources, if there was pay that you were expecting that has been delayed, this can now come through. You can finally receive any kind of money that you have been anticipating or which, has been missing. For some of you, you may even just find money in your house or, in a coat pocket or something. Now, the 2nd house also represents your valuables and your possessions. So a valuable or a possession may be returned to you after this period, whether that is someone who borrowed it, or it could just be that you lost something and then you were doing some spring cleaning and then you just discover this thing that you thought you'd lost. Now, the 2nd house also rules over how we budget and how we plan financially speaking. So every time Mercury goes retrograde, it's about rethinking these things and coming up with better systems and processes to navigate the matters of that house. Now, on a different level, the second house represents anything that we value, and this includes how much we value ourselves. So because Mercury rules over your first house and your 10th house, many of you Virgos over this 3-week period where Mercury was retrograde may have come to discover that you are worth so much more than you are giving yourself credit for. This could lead you to asking for a raise from your boss or from your employer. Or this could just be that if you own your own business, if you are your own boss, maybe you're putting the price of your services up. Maybe you just feel like you've got this newfound confidence, and maybe this is translating in the public eye or in terms of, how people perceive you, as shown by Mercury ruling over your 10th house. So there's many different ways that this Mercury retrograde period will have impacted you Virgos. It doesn't have to be, one or the other. It could even be all of those aforementioned ways. Now, on the 19th of October, Mars in Libra in your second house will trine Jupiter in Aquarius in your sixth house. Once again, the flavor of the month is finances and resources, as shown by Mars in your second house. So Mars rules over your eighth house, which represents your mutual resources, and Jupiter, once again, rules over your seventh house, which represents your one-on-one relationships. So you may be loaning money to a family member, or perhaps you are just giving them money, and this could be helping them to pay off their mortgage, to buy a house. Maybe you're just giving them money so that they can afford to break lease and relocate elsewhere. On a different level, this can see you investing your money into some kind of term deposit, as shown by Mars ruling over your eighth house of mutual resources. Now, on the 20th of October, there will be a full moon at 27 degrees Aries in your eighth house. Every time we see a full moon take place, the moon and the sun are in exact opposition with one another. Now, the sun will actually be conjunct Mars and in a wide conjunction with Mercury in Libra in your second house. So your second and your eighth house, which are money houses, are both being heavily activated by this full moon. So some of you may receive help from another person, as represented by the full moon in the eighth house of your mutual resources. This could be financial help to pay off a loan, which is represented by the full moon sextiling Jupiter in your sixth house, or this could be money or financial assistance to help pay off a medical fee or court case fees, as also represented by the sixth house. Now, this help could come from a family member, which is represented by Jupiter ruling over your fourth house of family, or it could just be another individual, or even your romantic partner, as represented by Jupiter ruling over your seventh house. I know that the previous transit was you helping them, and now it's them helping you, but just remember that this is a general reading, so this could play out in any number of different ways for you. Now, on a different level, there may be a court case ruling which basically denotes that you must be paid child support or alimony, as indicated by this full moon in your eighth house. Full moons indicate the ending of a chapter in our lives or a situation reaching its peak. Now, on a different level, the eighth house rules over spontaneous and miraculous healings, and I don't want to, put false hope into your mind. I just want to make you open to the idea that you could suddenly experience a reprieve from some kind of health issue or health ailment, and this is also backed up by the sextile to Jupiter, which represents a blessing taking place in your sixth house of health. So just be open to receiving some kind of healing information or a healing experience, whether that is with a medical practitioner as represented by Jupiter in the sixth house, or this could even be something which is more esoteric or occult and spiritual in nature as represented by the eighth house. Now, lastly, with this full moon in your eighth house, it is actually making a pretty tight square to Pluto in Capricorn in your fifth house. Now, the fifth house represents experiencing joy and happiness. And with this square aspect, which is quite challenging and confronting, I interpret this as you experiencing some kind of victory or win, where even though on paper it looks really good and you're like, yes, this is such an achievement, maybe I've achieved this big milestone, maybe it's a financial milestone, but this square to Pluto in your 5th house may have you feeling like, I should be way happier about this. There's some kind of discrepancy between the victory or the milestone that you've achieved and the fact that you're not feeling anywhere near as good as what you thought you would be. Now, Pluto rules over your 3rd house, which represents your mentality. It represents your perspective on things. Although there may be a positive outcome to celebrate, if you feel like you're just not as pumped or happy as you should be, just know that is, to be expected with this transit. And following on from that, on the 22nd of October, we will see Mars in Libra in your 2nd house, squaring Pluto in Capricorn in your 4th house. So this is really building on from that full moon energy, and it's going to have quite a psychological impact on you. The 2nd house represents our resources, and Mars represents what we're spending energy and time in doing. So with Mars ruling over your 3rd house, which represents, once again, your mentality and your perspective on things, maybe you are not gaining as much pleasure or joy and happiness from your hobbies and your passions and your creative projects as what you once did. So this could be throwing up a lot of confusion and doubt about, do I even like this hobby anymore? Why is me painting or drawing not bringing me joy? Why is it not alleviating these anxious feelings? This transit will see many of you feeling quite uncomfortable at a psychological level, as is the nature of a Mars square Pluto transit. But I suppose the practical application of how to ride this one out is to analyze, what am I spending my time and my resources on? Is this an excess of partying or gambling? Am I placing too much importance on my romantic partner or on my dating life? In any case, you may be questioning the resources that you currently do have and wondering whether they are going to be enough for you to pursue the kinds of things that you want to learn about, as represented by Mars ruling the 3rd house. Maybe you want to upskill. Maybe you want to start your own business. In any case, this transit will be quite brief in nature. The effects or the feelings which accompany it may be quite unnerving, but just know that it is a transient moment in time, and the spiritual purpose of this transit is for you to reassess the difference between what you spend your money and your time and your resources on, and how much joy you derive from these activities, these relationships, or from these pursuits. Now, there is one more transit for the month, which will take place on the 30th or the 31st of October, where we will see Mars entering Scorpio, but this horoscope is already too long, so I'm going to cover that at the very beginning of my November horoscopes. So Virgo, that's all I have for you for today. If you enjoyed this horoscope, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more content on this channel, please hit the subscribe button. Enjoy your month ahead, and I will see you guys next month.